Have you ever had the strange experience with English? You understand almost everything someone says, but when it is your turn to speak, your mind suddenly becomes empty. The words disappear, your heart beats faster, and you think, wait, why can't I speak? This moment happens to millions of English learners every day. Imagine you walk into a coffee shop. The barista smiles and asks, "What can I get for you?" You know the words "coffee, please." Maybe even "I would like a latte," but instead of speaking naturally, your brain starts building a perfect sentence. Is my grammar correct? Should I say "would like" or "want"? Suddenly the moment passes and you feel nervous again. Or maybe someone asks you a simple question. "Where are you from?" You know the answer, but your voice becomes small and robotic. "I am from Brazil," you say slowly. It sounds correct, but it does not feel natural. It feels like a test. Here is the truth that many learners never hear. Your problem is not grammar. Your problem is fear and lack of speaking practice. Many students spend years studying rules, memorizing vocabulary, and reading textbooks. But speaking is not a grammar exam. Speaking is a physical skill. Your mouth, your ears, and your brain must work together. Think about how children learn to speak. They do not study complicated grammar charts. They listen, repeat, copy, and practice again and again. Slowly their speech becomes natural. The same process works for English learners too. One of the most powerful methods for this is called shadowing. Shadowing means you listen to natural English and repeat immediately. You copy the rhythm, the sound, and the feeling of real speech. At first it may feel strange, but after many repetitions, your mouth begins to move more easily. Instead of translating every sentence in your head, you start using ready phrases. The difference is huge. Robotic English sounds like this: "I would like to order 1 coffee, please." Natural English sounds like this: "Hi, can I get a latte, please?" In this video, we will train your mouth, your ears, and your confidence together. You will practice simple phrases, real situations, and powerful shadowing exercises. Step by step, you will feel more relaxed speaking English. So if you have ever felt stuck, silent, or afraid when speaking English, do not worry. Today we start changing that. And first, we need to understand why speaking feels so difficult, even when you understand English very well. Let us explore the real reason behind this problem in the next section, where we will discover the 3 hidden obstacles that make speaking feel slow, stressful, and unnatural for many learners. Now let's talk about something surprising. Many English learners can understand a lot of English. They watch videos, listen to podcasts, and read messages easily. But when it is time to speak, everything suddenly becomes difficult. Why does this happen? There are 3 very common reasons, and once you understand them, speaking English will start to feel much easier. The first reason is translating in your head. Imagine a learner named Maria. She understands a conversation between 2 co-workers. One co-worker asks, "How was your weekend?" Maria understands the question perfectly, but before she answers, her brain starts translating. First, she thinks in her native language. Then she tries to translate that idea into English. Then she checks the grammar in her head. By the time she finishes thinking, the conversation has already moved on. This is why translating is slow. Native speakers do not translate. They use familiar phrases automatically. The second reason is fear of making mistakes. Many learners believe they must speak perfect English before opening their mouth. They worry about grammar, pronunciation, and vocabulary. So when someone asks a simple question, their brain starts checking everything. Is this sentence correct? Did I use the right tense? What if I sound strange? This fear creates pressure, and pressure makes speaking harder. But here is the truth. Native speakers make small mistakes all the time. They focus on communication, not perfection. The third reason is not having ready-to-use phrases. Think about this. When someone asks you a question in your native language, you do not build a sentence word by word. You use expressions you already know. English works the same way. Native speakers often use simple phrase patterns like, "That sounds great," I'm not sure. Let me think for a second. That's a good question. These phrases are like shortcuts. They help conversations flow naturally. This is why building a phrase bank is so powerful. A phrase bank is a collection of useful expressions you can use in many situations. When you learn phrases instead of isolated words, your brain can respond faster. You stop translating, you stop worrying so much, and speaking begins to feel smoother. In this video, we will practice many of these phrases together. But before we jump into real conversations, we need to prepare your mouth and ears. Speaking is like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it becomes. So in the next section, we will start with a simple but powerful exercise called shadowing. This warm-up will help you train your pronunciation, rhythm, and confidence before we practice real-life conversations. Before we practice real conversations, we need to warm up your speaking muscles. Think of this like stretching before exercise. If you try to run fast without warming up, your body feels tight and slow. Speaking English works the same way. Your mouth, ears, and brain need a few minutes to get comfortable with the sounds of English. One of the most effective techniques for this is called shadowing. Shadowing is simple but powerful. You listen to a short sentence and repeat it immediately, almost like an echo. The goal is not only the words, the goal is the rhythm, the speed, and the natural music of the language. When learners first try shadowing, they often focus on being perfect. They pause, they think, and they correct themselves again and again. But that is the slow way. The better way is to relax and move with the sentence. Listen, repeat, and keep going. Let's start with a few simple phrases. I will say the phrase, and you repeat it 2 times. Do not worry about perfection. Just follow the rhythm and speak with confidence. First phrase. Hi, how are you today? Repeat it again. Hi, how are you today? Second phrase. I'm doing well, thanks. Repeat it again. I'm doing well, thanks. Third phrase. Nice to meet you. Repeat it again. Nice to meet you. Faced phrase. That sounds great. Repeat it again. That sounds great. Repeat it again. That sounds great. As you repeat these phrases, notice something important. Your mouth begins to move faster. The sounds connect together. Instead of speaking word by word, you start speaking in rhythm. This is exactly how natural speech works. Native speakers do not stop between every word. The words flow together smoothly. Shadowing helps you copy that flow. At first it may feel strange. Maybe your pronunciation is not perfect. Maybe you feel a little shy speaking out loud. That is completely normal. The important thing is repetition. Every time you repeat a phrase, your brain builds a stronger connection between sound and meaning. Slowly the phrase becomes automatic. And when phrases become automatic, speaking becomes easier. You do not search for every word. The sentence simply comes out, so remember this rule. Do not practice silently in your head. Speak out loud. Let your voice get used to English. Now that your mouth is warmed up, we can start using these phrases in real conversations. Because speaking naturally is not only about pronunciation, it is about knowing what to say in everyday situations. In the next section, we will practice the first important skill of confident speaking, starting conversations easily and naturally. You will learn simple phrases that native speakers use every day, and after practicing them with shadowing, you will feel much more ready to speak. So take a small breath, relax your shoulders, and prepare to start your first natural conversation. Let's begin with an easy situation everyone experiences. Meeting someone new and saying hello. Here is how confident speakers start. Listen and repeat. One of the biggest fears in speaking English is the very first sentence. Many learners feel comfortable listening, but when they must start a conversation, they freeze. Their mind becomes empty. They start thinking about grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation all at the same time. But natural conversations are usually very simple. Native speakers rarely start with complicated sentences. They begin with short, friendly phrases that feel relaxed and easy. For example, a robotic learner might say something like this: "Hello, I would like to begin a conversation with you." This sentence is technically correct, but it sounds unnatural. Real conversations are lighter and more casual. Native speakers often start like this: "Hi, how's it going? Let's practice this together with shadowing." Listen and repeat twice. "Hi, how's it going?" Again. "Hi, how's it going?" Notice the rhythm. It is smooth and relaxed. The words connect together. Instead of saying "how is it going," native speakers link the sounds. "How's it going?" Now let's learn another useful conversation starter. "What are you working on today?" Repeat it. "What are you working on today?" One more time. "What are you working on today?" This phrase is great at work or school. It shows interest in the other person. Here is another common starter you might hear in places like cafes, events, or classes. "Have you been here before?" Repeat it. "Have you been here before?" Again. "Have you been here before?" Again. "Have you been here before?" Now let's add a reaction phrase that keeps the conversation friendly. "That's interesting." Repeat it. "That's interesting." One more time. "That's interesting." These small phrases are powerful because they remove pressure. Instead of creating a perfect sentence, you use a ready expression. It gives you an easy first step. Let's practice a short mini conversation. Repeat each line after you hear it. Person A: "Hi, how's it going?" Person B: "Pretty good, thanks. How about you?" Person A: "I'm doing well. What are you working on today?" Person B: "I'm preparing a presentation for tomorrow." Person A: "Oh, really? That's interesting." Repeat this dialogue one more time. The goal is not speed. The goal is smooth rhythm and confidence. Notice something important. These sentences are not complex. They are short, friendly, and natural. This is how most real conversations begin. When you memorize a few strong conversation starters, the fear of speaking becomes smaller. Instead of wondering what to say, you already know your first sentence, and once the conversation begins, something interesting happens. The pressure disappears, the other person responds, and the conversation starts to move. But starting a conversation is only the first step. After that, you need another important skill. You need to keep the conversation flowing naturally. In the next section, you will learn simple phrases and questions that help conversations continue smoothly, so you never feel stuck or silent again. Starting a conversation is a big step, but many learners discover something surprising after the first sentence. They start talking, and then suddenly they do not know what to say next. The conversation stops, and the silence feels uncomfortable. This happens because many learners believe conversations must be complex. They think they need long, intelligent sentences to sound natural, but real conversations are usually simple and repetitive. Native speakers often keep conversations moving with small reactions and follow-up questions. These short phrases show interest and encourage the other person to continue speaking. For example, imagine someone tells you, "I traveled to Japan last year." A nervous learner might just say, "Oh, that is good." Then the conversation ends. But a natural response could be, "Really? That's interesting. Let's practice this phrase with shadowing." "Really? That's interesting." Again, "Really? That's interesting." Notice the tone. Your voice rises slightly with "really." This shows curiosity. Intonation is important because it adds emotion to your words. Now let's practice another follow-up question. "How did that happen?" Repeat it. "How did that happen?" Again, "How did that happen?" This phrase invites the other person to explain more. It keeps the conversation alive. Here is another useful phrase. "What do you think about it?" Repeat it. "What do you think about it?" One more time. "What do you think about it?" Questions like this are powerful because they shift the conversation back to the other person. You do not need to talk all the time. You just guide the discussion. Now let's practice a simple reaction phrase. That makes sense. Repeat it. That makes sense. Again. That makes sense. This phrase shows understanding and agreement. Native speakers use it often in everyday conversations. Let's practice a short conversational exchange using these phrases. Person A: I started learning English 2 years ago. Person B: really? That's interesting. Person A: yes, I wanted to travel more. Person B: how did that happen? Person A: my friend moved to another country, so I decided to study English too. Person B: that makes sense. Repeat this dialogue again. Focus on your tone. Speak naturally, not like a robot. You may notice something important here. These phrases also give you time to think. While the other person is speaking, your brain has a moment to prepare the next sentence. This reduces pressure and helps conversations feel smoother. Remember, conversations are not about perfect grammar, they are about connection. When you react, ask questions and show interest, the conversation continues naturally. But sometimes even confident speakers need a moment to think before answering. What do native speakers do in that situation? They do not stay silent. Instead, they use simple phrases that give them time to think. And in the next section, you will learn exactly what to say when you need a few seconds to organize your thoughts. Imagine someone asks you a question in English. What do you like to do on weekends? You understand the question, but your brain suddenly starts searching for the right words. Should you say, watch movies, watching movies? I like watching movies. While you are thinking, the silence becomes longer, you feel nervous, and the pressure grows. Many learners believe they must answer immediately. When they cannot, they feel embarrassed. But here is something important to understand. Native speakers also need time to think. The difference is that they do not stay silent. They use small phrases that give them a moment to organize their thoughts. These phrases are called filler expressions. They make conversations feel natural and relaxed. Let's learn a few of the most useful ones. The first phrase is very common. Let me think for a second. Repeat it with shadowing. Let me think for a second. Again. Let me think for a second. When you say this, you create a short pause. The other person understands that you are thinking. Here is another helpful phrase. That's a good question. Repeat it. That's a good question. Again. That's a good question. This phrase works in many situations. It shows respect for the question and gives you time to prepare your answer. Now let's practice another natural expression. I'd say. Repeat it slowly. I'd say. One more time. I'd say. Notice the pause after. This pause is natural in conversation. It signals that you are thinking. Here is another useful phrase. Well, it depends. Repeat it. Well, it depends. Repeat it. Well, it depends. Again. Well, it depends. This phrase is perfect when the answer is not simple. It also gives you time to explain your idea. Now let's combine these phrases into a short speaking practice. Listen and repeat. Person A: what do you usually do after work? Person B: that's a good question. Let me think for a second. I'd say I usually watch a movie or read a book. Let's try another example. Person A: what is the best place to visit in your country? Person B: well, it depends. There are many beautiful places, but I really like the mountains. Repeat both conversations again. Focus on speaking smoothly and comfortably. Remember, fluency does not mean speaking perfectly or speaking very fast. Fluency means communicating your ideas without panic. These thinking phrases are powerful because they remove silence and reduce stress. Instead of feeling stuck, you guide the conversation while your brain prepares the answer. Little by little, this habit builds confidence. But there is another problem that stops many learners from speaking. Even when they know what to say, they hesitate. Why? Because they are afraid of making mistakes. In the next section, We will talk about this fear and discover why mistakes are actually one of the most important parts of becoming a confident English speaker. Now let's talk about one of the biggest fears in learning English: making mistakes. Many learners believe they must speak perfect English before they open their mouth. They study grammar rules for years. They memorize vocabulary lists. They read textbooks again and again. But when it is time to speak, they stay quiet. Let me tell you a simple story. Two students start learning English at the same time. The first student is very careful. She studies every grammar rule. She checks every sentence in her head before speaking. If she is not sure the sentence is perfect, she stays silent. The second student is different. His English is not perfect. Sometimes he chooses the wrong word. Sometimes his grammar is not correct, but he speaks anyway. He practices every day. 6 months later, something surprising happens. The careful student still understands English very well, but speaking still feels difficult. She is still afraid of making mistakes. The second student, the one who practiced speaking, now feels much more confident. His English is not perfect, but he can communicate easily. Conversations feel natural. Why did this happen? Because speaking is not a test, it is a skill, and skills improve through practice, not perfection. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. The first time you try, you might lose balance, you might fall, but every small mistake teaches your body something new. Speaking English works the same way. When you speak, even if your sentence is not perfect, you are training your brain. You are building fluency step by step. Native speakers also make mistakes. They sometimes forget words. They sometimes correct themselves, but they continue the conversation. The goal of communication is understanding, not perfection. Let's practice a few powerful sentences that remind you of this mindset. Repeat them with confidence. It's okay to make mistakes. Again, it's okay to make mistakes. I'm learning every day. Repeat it. I'm learning every day. Practice makes progress. One more time. Practice makes progress. These sentences may sound simple, but they change how you think about speaking. When you stop fearing mistakes, your voice becomes stronger and more relaxed. And when your voice relaxes, conversations become easier. But confidence does not grow from motivation alone. It also grows from consistent practice. In the next section, we will look at a simple daily speaking routine that can help you improve faster, even if you only have a few minutes each day. Now that you understand how conversations work and why mistakes are part of learning, the next question is simple. How can you practice speaking every day? The good news is that you do not need hours of study. You only need a short, consistent routine. Even 15 minutes a day can slowly build strong speaking habits. Let's look at a simple 5-step routine you can follow. Step 1 is shadowing short phrases. Spend about 5 minutes repeating natural sentences out loud. Shadowing trains your mouth and your ears at the same time. Try repeating these phrases. Hi, how's it going? Nice to meet you. That sounds great. Let me think for a second. Repeat each phrase 2 or 3 times. Focus on rhythm and flow, not perfection. Step 2 is practicing mini dialogues. Conversations become easier when you practice common situations. For example, Person A, hi, how's it going? Person B, pretty good, thanks, how about you? Repeat both roles. First speak as Person A, then as Person B. This helps your brain learn how conversations move naturally. Step 3 is recording yourself speaking. Many learners avoid this step because they feel shy. But recording your voice is a powerful way to improve. Choose a simple topic like your favorite food or what you did yesterday. Speak for 30 seconds and record it. For example, you might say, "Yesterday I went to the park with my friend. We talked and drank coffee." Then listen to your recording. Notice your pronunciation and rhythm. Over time, you will hear clear improvement. Step 4 is repeating phrase banks. Phrase banks are groups of useful expressions you can use in many conversations. Practice sentences like these. That's a good question. Really? That's interesting. What do you think about it? That makes sense. When you repeat these phrases every day, they become automatic. Your brain stops translating and starts responding naturally. Step 5 is speaking with someone or simulating conversation. If you have a friend, language partner, or teacher, try to speak with them regularly. If you are alone, you can still practice. Imagine someone asking you questions and answer out loud. For example, what did you do today? I worked in the morning and studied English in the evening. The most important part of this routine is consistency. Practicing a little every day is much more powerful than studying for many hours once a week. Small daily habits build strong speaking skills. At first you may feel slow, but after weeks of practice, something wonderful happens. Your words come faster, your sentences feel smoother, and your confidence grows. Soon you will notice that speaking English feels more natural than before. And when that moment arrives, your life can change in many exciting ways. In the next section, we will imagine that future version of you, the confident English speaker who communicates comfortably in any situation. Take a moment and imagine a different version of yourself in the near future. You walk into a cafe while traveling in another country. The barista smiles and asks, "What can I get for you?" This time, you do not freeze. You do not panic. You simply smile and say, "Hi, can I get a latte, please?" The conversation continues easily. Later that day, you meet new people. Someone asks, "Where are you from?" You answer confidently. You ask them questions too. The conversation flows naturally and you feel relaxed. Now imagine another situation. You are at work. Your co-worker asks for your opinion during a meeting. Instead of staying quiet, you speak clearly. You explain your idea. People listen and understand you. This future is not impossible. It is not reserved for people with special talent. It comes from practice. Think about the difference between where you are now and where you can be. Right now, speaking English might feel stressful. When someone asks a question, your mind searches for the right words. You worry about grammar, you worry about mistakes, but after weeks and months of practicing phrases, shadowing sentences, and having simple conversations, your brain begins to change. Instead of building every sentence slowly, you start using familiar expressions automatically. You hear a question, and your response comes naturally. You recognize patterns like, "That's a good question. Let me think for a second. That sounds great." These phrases become tools that help conversations move smoothly. Confidence does not arrive suddenly. It grows from repetition and real experience. Every time you speak, you train your brain. Every conversation makes the next one easier. Let's finish this section with a few powerful sentences you can repeat to remind yourself of your progress. Repeat after me. I can speak English naturally. Again. I can speak English naturally. I improve every day. Repeat it. I improve every day. I'm not afraid to speak. One more time. I'm not afraid to speak. These sentences are more than practice. They are a mindset. When you believe that improvement is possible, you continue practicing, and when you continue practicing, progress becomes inevitable. Remember, the confident English speaker you imagine is simply the future version of you who kept practicing. And before we finish, let's bring everything together with one final shadowing challenge that will help you review the phrases and speaking patterns you learned today. Now it's time for one final shadowing challenge. In this short practice, we will combine several phrases you learned in this video. Listen carefully and repeat each line out loud. Let's begin. Person A: "Hi, how's it going?" Person B: "Pretty good, thanks. How about you?" Person A: "I'm doing well. What are you working on today?" Person B: Let me think for a second. I'm practicing my English speaking." Person A: "That sounds great." Person B: "Thanks. I practice a little every day." Person A: "Really? That's interesting." Person B, yes. Practice makes progress. Now repeat the whole conversation one more time. Focus on speaking smoothly and confidently. Do not rush. Let the rhythm feel natural. Remember something important. Speaking naturally is not a special talent. It is a skill built through repetition, practice, and real conversations. If you practice these phrases again tomorrow and again the next day, they will slowly become automatic. Your voice will feel stronger. Your sentences will come faster. Try watching this video several times during the week. Each time, repeat the shadowing exercises out loud. And most importantly, keep speaking. You do not need perfect grammar. You only need the courage to start. Your English will improve step by step. So take a deep breath, believe in your progress, and keep practicing. Your confident English voice is already growing.